Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today got an update to the Static Orb Annihilator build that we did before on the first couple days of patch release. In this update, we're going to make the cost of Static Orb go way down. We're not going to depend upon the big orbs. Instead, we're going to be running tons and tons of the small orbs, which will still hit for a lot of damage. They're still going to clear full screen AoE, kind of like the Hammerdin did. However, in this particular case, it'll now be so cheap that you can depend on taking more damage, so the more damage that's dealt to you will be consumed as mana thanks to that fractured crown that you have, which is going to increase your survivability, and you don't have to depend upon having so much mana regen. You don't have to stack any at all in this build. Of course, the more you have, that means the more damage you take, the more you can offset that by regenning the mana. However, in this build, we're also going to utilize some other skills. So Static Orb skill tree will change a little, but we're also going to take advantage of Static and its ability to channel or cast Lightning Blast for you for a little extra damage. And Static Orb can give us static charges, which means more Lightning Blast for basically no additional charge or having to cast it. You can just run around and it'll take care of anything that comes into that melee range around you and zap them with a Lightning Blast. I do want to say thanks for all the help for the min-maxing of this by both 𝗏𝗄𝗏 and Soldark. So thank you guys. Let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how it all works now. For skills, I'm running Static Orb, Flame Ward, Static, Lightning Blast, and Teleport. For Static Orb, the skill tree has changed a little bit since the previous build. For this, we're running 2 points in Shocking Conduit, 1 point in Insidious Focus, only 1 point instead of 5 in the Orbital Fulmination, because we don't care about the big orbs. We have 1 point in Ball Lightning, which we didn't have before. This reduces the mana cost by 22, but it makes it to where the orbs aren't going to explode. There's still a small chance for them to, but we don't really care about the explosion damage. What we really care about is just having as many orbs as possible. And that's why we're going to go with this, so that we can just spam it a lot more without having to build too much into mana. We have 1 point in Storm Conductor and 1 point in Arcane Current. This allows us to gain 1 static charge for every enemy hit by any of the orbs, which is meaning that with how many small orbs we have, you're going to be at the full 200 static charges almost at all times. Then we have 1 point in Forking Surge, 3 points in Open Circuit, 4 points in Scatter Blast, which allows you to have 4 of the smaller orbs every time that you cast. And because the big one will disappear because you can only have 1 big one max, the little ones don't disappear. And this is what allows you just to keep spamming it and just have tons and tons of little orbs. And then we have 1 point in Static Armor, so you will get that Lightning Aegis. You'll have to cast this every 2 seconds in order to keep that up. And then 4 points in Critical Trajectory for that 100% Critical Strike multiplier. For Flame Ward, we have this basically set up the exact same with 1 point in Starward Defense, 5 points in Barrier, 3 points in Prismatic Buffer, 3 points in Dilation, 4 points in Through Flames, 3 points in Infusion, and 1 point in Lightning Ward. For Static, this wasn't on the tree last time. I think we had Arcane Ascendance. We switched it to Static to have Static automatically proc Lightning Blast for us, especially when enemies are in that melee range, so it helps for a little extra damage, a little extra leech. 5 points in Reverberation, 1 point in Overlord, 5 points in Diode, 1 point in Unlimited Power, so it's Lightning Blast and the skill tree of Lightning Blast that's being procced. 4 points in High Voltage, and 4 points in Overcharge. For Lightning Blast, we have this set up with 3 points in Storm Razor, 4 points in Chain Lightning, 1 point in Convergence, so it will be a single target, it chains to itself type attack, which will really help when the big rares or bosses come into melee range, so that Static can hit them with the Lightning Blast. This just helps for single target a little bit. 4 points in Volatile Lightning, 2 points in Crackling Speed, 3 points in Shatter Shock. Since we're not manually casting it, points in Arcing Power wouldn't work. You can't do the quad cast or dual cast, and you also can't really put into front loaded as you are chaining, so it will reduce the damage quite a bit. So we got 2 points in Blinding Light, and then 1 point in Halo Effect for a chance to create a Shock Nova on the first enemy that we hit with the Lightning Blast. For Teleport, we have it set up for buffs and decoys. We got 4 points in Resonant Plasma, 1 point in Decoy Position, 1 point in Unexpected Copy, 4 points in Elemental Affinity, 5 points in Crystalline Passage, and 5 points in Time Dilation. By teleporting once every 8 seconds, you're going to keep your Elemental resist full, and you'll have additional armor and stun avoidance. For the Mage base class, we have 31 points with 8 points in Elementalist, 8 points in Arcanist, 5 points in Mage Flurry, and 10 points in Knowledge of Destruction. 0 points in the Spellblade, and 81 points in the Sorcerer, our master class. with 8 points in Calculated Destruction, 8 points in Brainstorm, 5 points in Arcane Momentum, 6 points in Wisdom, 8 points in Serenomancer, 5 points in Rift Bolt, 8 points in Crackling Precision, 5 points in Arcane Obliteration, 5 points in Distant Spark, 8 points in Elemental Ascendance, 5 points in Spell Slinger, 5 points in Arcane Current, and 5 points in Archmage. Alright, and then for idols, items, blessings, and uniques, we got the same idols that we had before. You're still going to want the Lightning Aegis, or increased lightning damage while having Lightning Aegis active, and then increased lightning damage doubled if you have over that 300 max mana. We also have some 1x1s in this case for some Void Resist, because we did take off Orion's Eye, so you will need to get Void Resist. The only unique that's on this build is still the Fractured Crown for that spell critical strike multiplier, as well as increased mana and up to 50% of damage dealt to mana before health, which is really helpful, especially in this lower costing mana build. Means that you can take more damage and put that in your mana pool instead, so that you are able to have just basically 50% or up to 50% damage reduction at all times, which is really, really powerful for the build. For crafted items, I'm just going to hover over them. They're not any different than they were before. We did end up putting on a brass amulet that we have lightning pen, critical strike multiplier, some void resist, and also some poison resist. This build planner will again be in the description below as well as in the written guide. Same thing for the blessings. Nothing makes or breaks the build. However, on the Rhea, on the second one, I would definitely try and get, on the third one, actually for Rhea, I would try and get spell damage, 𝗵𝐻 help. That's really going to help with your survivability. I don't have it on this character. It's fine if you don't have it. You can get 𝗵𝐻 elsewhere. However, I recommend that you aim for that so that you have a lot more survivability, as your health will stay full a lot more. For the character sheet, you can see we have just about 2,000 health. We're almost capped on all resist. If you teleport, like I said, once every 8 seconds, you will cap out that elemental, get some additional armor. For damage types, we have about 400% lightning damage. This goes up a bit when you teleport. It also goes up when you have lightning aegis. So if you teleport and you cast down a static orb, you'll see you have just over 700%. And then for critical strike multiplier, we have about 350%. And then additionally, we have another 100% inside the static orb tree, as well as another 100% plus on the Fractured Crowned Helm. For skill rotation and how to play the build, like I said, this is a much lower mana costing build, so you can spam a lot more static orbs. I like to put Flame Ward on autocast, and then I'll go ahead, teleport in, and you can just spam your static orbs, and you're not going to worry about mana. Now, you will be taking hits from monsters, especially like hot rares or bosses that can get in melee range and hit you. That will reduce your mana, since you are mitigating up to 50% of the damage you take into mana. So when that happens, you want to make sure you kind of stay on the move. You don't want to try and face tank, because your mana can disappear within a couple of big hits that you take. What this allows you to do, though, is not to have to worry if you do take a big hit and your mana goes away. You don't have to worry about waiting for your mana to come back. You can just start spamming the orbs right away, because you can basically keep up with the entire cost. In fact, your mana will probably go up, especially if you're moving a couple of steps in between every cast. But overall, you do still get the full screen AoE. You can see the orbs basically go out almost the entire screen here. We're hitting some objects, that's why they're disappearing, but very big AoE, big damage. You don't need the big orbs in order to do this. You don't need the explosions in order to do this, and therefore you can make it really cheap and still get really good AoE and just enjoy the build. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. It's not too much different than the previous one, but it does mechanically kind of behave differently, and that's why we did the update. I hope you guys enjoyed the build guide, and I hope you enjoy some gameplay. So, as always, stay safe and enjoy some gameplay.